Welcome back. So I'm going to jinx things. I'm just going to say that this is probably the last news video I'll need today. I'll do tomorrow's preview tonight. And I may even have a reverse retro video to do in between this one and that one as well. So just some more news coming out from today. The ECHL, who of course will be playing with roughly half their teams not playing due to economic shutdowns. They've announced expansions for next season, and Trois-Rivières in Quebec has been added, and Coralville, Iowa has been added as well. So that's a second Canadian franchise to go with the Newfoundland Growlers. And so, yeah, the ECHL with expansion, which makes sense. We're going to have 32 NHL teams. You're going to need to expand in the AHL and the ECHL. The AHL has already done the expansion into Palm Springs, and now ECHL announces the same. So, good news for Trois-Rivières, Quebec. Good news for Coralville, Iowa. And so they get added to the Iowa Wild, and there you go, hockey in Iowa. There was a minor trade today. Max Lajoie, after clearing waivers, ends up going to Carolina in exchange for Clark Bishop going to Ottawa. So this is purely a minor league deal, and yet Lajoie at times in call-ups to Ottawa, there's been something there. We'll see whether or not Carolina can get the most out of them. Carolina's done pretty good at picking up reclamation projects and doing well with them. And on the Ottawa front, we'll see whether or not Clark Bishop ends up in on the roster at some point this season. It is quite possible that does happen. So just a minor deal. Brock Besser stirs things up just a little bit today, talking about the meltdown against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jake Virtanen was on the first line that night, and he states that when you've got Virtanen on your line, you may have to be a little more defensively sound. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's not really news to say that Virtanen is more of an offensive force than he is in the defensive zone, and that's been an ongoing thing with Virtanen. So I do wonder if at some point in time Virtanen leaves Vancouver, if we're going to get like a tell-all from all the Canucks on this. Wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a player leave a team and end up with his former teammates saying, boy, have I got stories for you. And you get the feeling with Virtanen that members of the Canucks might have some stories, and that Besser might be willing to sit us all down at a campfire and tell us the stories of Jake Virtanen. But yeah, it's not really. I mean, that game against Pittsburgh was such an epic meltdown. So it's not really. To me, it's not a huge story of Besser stating it. It's just they didn't say it at the time. So the other interesting thing is, it does make you wonder, is that relationship of Virtanen's maybe with some of his other teammates, is that potentially an issue? So yeah, we'll see how that plays out this season. Now that Höglander's got himself a spot on that second line, there's the possibility that the Canucks at some stage this season actually trade out Jake Virtanen. But we'll see how things go. Hamonic taking the ice with the Canucks, and now he's got his contract, which is supposed to be roughly $1 million a year, apparently, or $1 million for the 1 year, right? We'll see. We'll see whether or not they feel they need help elsewhere in the roster, or elsewhere on their roster, and Virtanen's trading could help with that, or what happens. But yeah, so the whole Virtanen thing is still out there, and of course, fans will immediately glom onto that. Speaking of things that people will glom onto immediately, it's Eugene Melnyk. Eugene Melnyk tweeted out this morning that he was seeking 6,000 fans in attendance at games, and he'd put in this plan, and it was going to involve, social distancing and frequent sanitization and all of this. And then there was some backlash against this. So Melnyk has removed that tweet, and he posted on his website that he's not asking for it right now, and he understands not right now. And so I'm not sure whether this was just that the first tweet was poorly thought out, or if it was that there was a backlash and he went, okay, so no, I'm not looking to get fans in attendance. He may be looking at some of the American cities where fans are going to be in attendance and thinking those teams are going to make that revenue. I really want that revenue for myself, and maybe not connecting the dots that it's different in every location. So yeah, Melnyk immediately just says, nope, sorry. Nope, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all. So yeah, that's gone. Coming back to the Evander Kane story, and this probably isn't going to be the last time we talk about this. Bob Boughner expects Kane to play the full season. The expectation is, on the San Jose side, that Evander Kane will play and that he'll play every game. And so the court filings, which said that he was considering stepping out and not playing this year and maybe terminating his contract, that's straight from the court filings. Apparently the Sharks either don't know of it or they're discouraging it or something along those lines. But his coach figures he's going to be in the lineup. So this story just is going to keep rolling. So if there's anything that I think is going to cause me to have to do another news video before the end of the day after I do my treadmill again, I would say it'll probably be the Evander Kane story. That's my guess. Probably right as soon as I start on the treadmill. Because that'll often happen that, I do 5 miles and usually something will happen at like 0.15 miles into the 5 miles where I'll get a notification on my phone and I'm like, oh, okay. So we'll see. It basically qualifies as leaving the house. One of the old jokes on this channel is that things don't happen in the National Hockey League until I leave the house. Whether it's a trade, a free agent signing, or suspension, they will happen as soon as I leave the house. 2020 kind of changed that where I don't really leave the house. So even hockey doesn't happen anymore because I don't leave the house. So we'll see. One thing that's changed this year, and we wondered how this was going to work. So for 18 and 19-year-old players, you can't send them to the American Hockey League. And players who are 18 and 19 and don't have a contract, well, they go straight back to juniors, right? The NHL is allowing this rule to be amended for this season. So because junior leagues aren't playing, and this was a question we've had for weeks, which was, okay, so you got an 18-year-old kid, he's not ready for the NHL, are you sending him home? So in other words, he doesn't have a Western Hockey League or an Ontario Hockey League team to play for. Are you just sending him home to sit and maybe get on the ice and practice? Maybe not. For this year, they are allowed to be sent to the AHL, and they won't count towards the 50 contract limit that NHL teams have. So if you have an unsigned junior player, you can send him to Utica. You can send him to the Marlies. You can send him down and know that he's developing, he's going through what he needs to go through, and you can keep an eye on him, and he's still going to be on the ice, he's still going to be skating. So this is for this year. This is something that a lot of hockey fans, myself included, have hoped we would eventually see some kind of just exceptions. Maybe maybe every team gets a one-player exception where you can't put anybody in the AHL if they're 18 or 19, minus that one exception. And maybe this year we'll see the starting of that. But it's an agreement between the National Hockey League and the CHL. And maybe that agreement's going to get altered just a little bit coming out of this year. Because, again, it gives teams a chance to monitor the development of prospects and maybe help out too. Bruins note here at the end, Brad Marchand is expected to play in the Bruins season opener. So while Pasternak's on the ice and he's probably a couple weeks out, Marchand's expected to play. Bad news for the rest of the NHL. Not for the reasons that people who hate Marchand would give, but because he is their most dynamic forward, especially with Pasternak out. There have been times I have argued that Marchand is the MVP for the Bruins. That includes Bergeron, because when Bergeron's been out, the Bruins record has still been pretty solid. So, and a lot of that has to do with Marchand. So the fact that he's not going to miss any time, as was expected to be the case, that's big news if you're the Bruins, and bad news for teams playing against the Bruins, because the Bruins are much easier to play against if Marchand's not in the lineup. But we'll see what happens. So there you go. News of the day. Tonight, we will do the first preview of the 2021 season. I'm excited about that, so tune in for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.